Part 1. The Bargain. Chapter 1. As the sun begins its descent toward evening, I finish organizing my belongings. The small cottage is clean, the shutters securely fastened, and the door firmly bolted. All preparations have been made for my departure. My cow, pigs, and chickens have all been distributed to kindly neighbors who have more use for them now than me. My loyal eagle, Ilo, perches on his cage eyeing me warily as I tow the lumpy satchel at my feet. There's not a lot of anything valuable inside it. No coin or jewels. Only a change of well-worn clothes, a loaf of home-baked bread, a length of tattered but still functional rope, striking stones to make a fire, and a small bag of precious herbs and tinctures. I take up the sack and the cage, giving Ilo a command to fly. I'll allow him to do so freely until we reach the edge of town. On foot, it will take nearly an hour to reach the outskirts of the city, one of the perks of living in my cottage at the edge of the vast forest. In my experience, people are meaner and more dangerous when they congregate. I found seclusion a safer prospect. I stride through the landscape, my eyes eagerly taking in every detail. The day-to-day work of carving out a living in this place has always been strenuous. But today, I allow myself the indulgence of simply appreciating the beauty that surrounds me. The gentle gurgling of the spring soothes my senses, while the sky stretches overhead in a magnificent display of unblemished blue. The late spring day is unusually warm, the sun's rays filtering through the ancient, weathered trees, casting a tranquil glow over everything in their path. It's a serene and idyllic scene, one that in another lifetime, under different circumstances, could have been quite heavenly. I won't miss this place, but it marks an important chapter. I'd prefer to be able to remember it. When we reach the edge of town, I call Ilo from the sky and see him settled in his cage. He pokes his shining blue-black beak through the bars and affectionately pecks at my fingers. Clutching the cage tightly to my chest, we pass into the city, but the rickety market stalls are empty, the ancient, crooked streets gravely still, and the loud and stinking masses vanished. I tread forward, turning briskly down squalid alleyways I'm too well acquainted with until I reach the more majestic square in the center of the metropolis. A patch of cheery, yellow daffodils wave to me from the front of the magistrate's garden. I pass his pretentious mansion, hoping the lecherous old pervert isn't spying from one of his windows. The priest seems surprised but not displeased when I hand him my summons at the yawning mouth of the cathedral. He grunts and jerks his head, his version of an invitation to enter. If I were another female, he might spare some words of comfort, but his compassion is reserved for those who can afford to leave coins in his collection plate on Sunday. I am neither one who can afford to leave a coin, nor one to be frequently found inside his church, so he does not bother with me. I'm the last of the women to arrive. One of the town's aldermen ushers me to a line of females in varying states of distress. I slide into place between indignant female number 7 and bereft female number 9, then deposit Ilo in his cage at my feet. With a flourish, I remove my satchel and cloak, revealing my best dress. It's not the most luxurious fabric as I cannot afford silk or satin, but it's clean and flattering. I designed and stitched the deep forest green gown myself, of a color I knew would complement my hair's fiery highlights and my arresting green eyes. But the green is not commonly worn in this village. Perhaps these people have a right to be suspicious. It's too fey a color, too reminiscent of great forest queens and the lush landscapes that border ours. There are a few other unique elements to my dress, including a slightly lower neckline and fitted sleeves that gather at my wrists. I anticipate some curiosity or disapproval over it from the other girls and their families, but they are all too distracted by their concerns to pay attention to me or my attire. Nervously, I smooth my palms against my thighs, wondering when the prince will appear. Impatience bubbles within me as I wait for his arrival. The outer courtyard is suddenly alive with a symphony of hooves and stamping feet. A wave of tension ripples through the crowd gathered in the church, their murmurs hushed as they anticipate his entrance. And then he appears, striding through the massive oak doors with an air of command. My heart races as I lean forward, eager to catch a glimpse of the prince I remember from my childhood. Stopping short in the doorway, he runs a hand through a mass of wavy locks in dark chestnut threaded through with strands of rich red and gold. His eyes are like pools of liquid bronze as they survey the room. His features are finely chiseled too, a testament to classic handsomeness, with a strong jawline and a straight nose. A burnt orange jacket sumptuously embroidered with golden leaves sits almost without thought over a simple, yet elegant white shirt that had been left partly unbuttoned. If his marital desirability rested on looks alone, not one of these women would be upset to be here. I shake my head, and that one small movement draws his attention. Our eyes meet and hold. He scowls, but the priest approaches and the prince must attend to the greeting. While the prince's grandly armored knights file in, the mewling cleric leads the prince to the first of the women, a girl I know as the miller's daughter. Both miller and daughter are openly sobbing. The miller's wife, a fat and normally jovial woman, also begins to wail. Awkwardly, the prince pauses to briefly inspect their daughter. Quickly, he moves to the second female. This one came straight from the barnyard pig pen. Her hair is greasy, her skin crusted with dirt and muck. Her scent is ripe. I have to give her credit. She's made a fine show to dissuade the prince from choosing her. Quickly, he moves on. Girls 3, 4, and 5 huddle together in fear and anger, presenting a strange combination of livid faces and trembling bodies. Their cheeks are flushed with rage, but their voices quiver as the prince draws near and gazes at them intently. In response to a growing sense of dread, Ilo lets loose a piercing screech. Several men cast disapproving glances my way, so I quickly kneel to calm the agitated eagle. His big yellow eyes seem to echo what I'm feeling, that all of this show is merely a formality that should be dispensed with swiftly. To give further rein to his impatience, the eagle hops and fluffs his feathers as the tension in the room continues to mount. The prince finishes his careful inspection of pissed-off girl number 7, and now it's my turn to be scrutinized. I stand tall, determined to meet him eye to eye. My heart pounds, unsure how this encounter will go. "Greetings," I say, perhaps a bit too enthusiastically. The prince blinks in surprise, his face betraying uncertainty. His brow furrows as he contemplates me. "What's this?" he asks, pointing to the cage. "This is Ilo." The prince bends to study the enormous blue-gray and white raptor. Curiously, he asks, "What type of creature is she?" "He's a harpy eagle." Ilo squawks again, then hops to the side of the cage to nip at the prince's extended fingers. "Careful," I warn. "He's a vicious predator. We hunt together frequently." The prince straightens. "Your father does not hunt for your family. My father and mother are dead." The prince takes a half step toward the next female. Abruptly, he turns back, then steps back, as if to compare me with the other women. His investigation narrows again, moving from the caged bird to the satchel. Finally, his gaze moves from my feet to my knees to my stomach. I have the urge to laugh. Yesterday, I was worried about my dwindling woodpile and that pesky mole that seemed hell-bent on destroying my asparagus. Now, I'm being ogled by a mighty fey lord to an ominous accompaniment of whimpers, sniffles, and keening. The prince's molten brown eyes narrow as they roam over my body, taking in every curve and contour with a calculating gaze. They finally come to rest on my bosom, the unusually low cut of my gown and tight bodice drawing attention to the soft swell of my breasts. "What is your name?" he demands, his voice dripping with haughtiness and judgment. I can't help but roll my eyes at his arrogance. Straightening my posture, I place a hand on my hip and give him a stern look. "My name is Aurora," I state firmly, daring him to question it. "Or Rory, if you prefer. And yes, I do have a face to go along with these other parts." The prince's expression freezes for a moment before his eyes lift to mine and he breaks into a sheepish grin. He dips his head, acknowledging his social blunder with unexpected good nature. "Today is my name day," I continue. "Is it?" The prince rocks back on his heels, his eyes widening. "Speaking of name days," he pauses, searching for the right words to frame his observation. "You're older than the rest." He bobs his head toward the girls. "You noticed?" Dramatically, I look down the row of younger females. "How old?" he inquires tersely. I give my best estimate of his age. 425. He doesn't even crack the smallest grin. "No. I meant how many years are you?" 25, I say sweetly. "Still a lot younger than you." I glance again down the line of weeping women. "Plus, I'm not crying my eyes out that you've come to abscond with me." Another male might question why, but not the prince. Still, his examination of bereft female number 9 is brief. So too his analysis of the final girl in line. After that, he confers with the priest. Judging by the priest's warmer reception of him, bordering now on giddiness, I gather I've garnered the dubious honor of becoming the prince's wife. Leaving Ilo and my satchel, I approach the Fey Lord. He is the only person who doesn't mind my audacity, his molten eyes sparking with curiosity rather than disdain. His guards shuffle and glare at me while the townspeople titter and whisper in dismay, their disapproving voices adding to the tension. "Yes?" the prince inquires. His body has relaxed, his eyes are almost dancing. A little shyly, he inquires, "What may I help you with, Aurora?" "You've made your decision." "Is it me?" "It is." With a deep breath, I steel myself for what I must reveal. "There's one more thing I need to tell you. If this is going to work, we both need full disclosure." The ghost of the prince's smile disappears, replaced by a wary expression. His stance becomes guarded as he asks, "What's the issue?" I take a deep breath before finally admitting it, The thing everyone else here already knows and probably wishes I'd keep secret. I'm married. The prince freezes in shock, his already delicate pale skin draining of color. It's almost unearthly, his stillness and his colorlessness. Then, with deadly calm but a hint of gritted teeth, he responds, running one hand belatedly through that thick and shining shock of russet hair. You received an invitation, but you already have a husband, he repeats. Suddenly, his former stillness evaporates and he begins to pace in front of me, attempting to make sense of the situation. That is, well, that's not possible. He stops, eyeing me, then his men, with confusion. It isn't how this works. Finally, he glances at the assembled crowd of townspeople as if searching for the man in question. I was married, I amend quickly. To Jens. I struggle to keep my voice steady as I relay the next words. He died. A brief moment of surprise, understanding, and relief passes over the prince's features, but he takes my hand in his. His larger, smoother palms sandwich my smaller, calloused ones. His touch is gentle but firm. Not overly warm but also not overly cool. I'm sorry for your loss, he says sincerely, his voice laced with guilt. He couldn't have done anything to change the outcome. Despite our current circumstances, his genuine sentiment moves me. Not to tears, but I know he can see the pain rising up. It's written on my features because it's written on my soul. That thing passes again between us, the shared sorrow and understanding, just as it did those many years ago when I spied him as a child. Does he remember the small girl observing him? Does he know that she is me? I'm sorry, too, I say. And I'm sorry for all you've endured. I'm sorry we've never said that to you, that we've never asked why this happens. We've never offered to help you try to stop it. I pull my hand free and square my shoulders, aware of but heedless of the gasps from the others beyond us. But I've never heard of a widow being chosen. I wondered if, because I'm not a maiden. No, that does not matter, the prince assures me, curtly shaking his head. Only. He stares at me, unsure of how to continue, moved by the emotion that passed between us. Finally, he leans in, his eyes blazing with desperation, his voice a breathless, rasping whisper. If you ask it of me, I will free you of this burden. Allow me to do so, Rory. It's a boon I've never offered before and one I won't extend to these others. But for you. For your kindness in these words that have never once been spoken to me by your kind. I will choose someone else if you ask me. You may leave this place. You're young enough to begin again. Choose another fine male. Have children. 10 of them if you desire it. Just live long and full. And far, far away. From here. And from me. No. I say it adamantly, tossing my head over my shoulder to glance back at the other panicked girls. It's too late for that. And I'm not sure I ever wanted it. So, what is this? Exactly, he asks, pulling back. Assessing. What bargain and what stipulations? I won't promise love or obedience, I say carefully, aware that my words must be scrupulously selected. I don't expect it of you, either. I'm well aware that any of the human vows we make inside this church with this priest presiding. It's not what will matter because it never has before. Not in whatever game this is part of. He nods, signaling his tacit agreement but scowling. You don't need me as your bride. He tilts his head, his molten eyes still shrewdly evaluating the proposition. All predator, no prey. A bride in name, not purpose, he says, testing the thought out on his tongue. Still a powerful, dangerous thing, girl. Princess of a fey court with all its treasures, riches, and wonders at your fingertips. Charms and glamours and pretty, lovely enchantments all laid out for you. Beyond that, a title and servants and everything your heart most desires in a land more beautiful than any other. More beautiful and more terrible, I remind him curtly. Let's not pretend for all its splendor fairy doesn't also offer a lion's share of horrors. And death. Especially for one like me. Especially for your bride, even if only in name. He meets my stare baldly. You've never been there before. How would you know what lies there? And I say, again, it isn't enough. I need more than a bride in name. How about a friend? I reply in a rush. Genuinely. With the smallest of smiles. If it's possible, I'll help you end this. I'll do it so these others will never need to assemble like this again. Not if I can help it. If I succeed in freeing you, you free me again in return. Give me leave to live in your lands as I please, not as a wife but as a guest left to adventure. Not for love, he states grimly. Or for me. Not entirely for you, I amend. But surely you'll benefit. Don't you wish to be free of this yearly torment? I know that's what this is for you. Torture. You don't like it any more than we do. He considers, his skin pale, eyes shining. Something so sad and forlorn and lost lies at the very heart of him. Careful, Rory, he rasps, power and majesty and something also quite ghostly, spectral, leaking from him. Bargaining with my kind comes with peril. Strike a deal with me and you'll find it quite unbreakable. I know. Then say it, he declares as if to challenge me. Speak the deal aloud. Carefully. And we'll see if the final terms can be accepted. One of his men steps up as if to stop this from going further, but the Fey Prince motions him back with such power and authority, the other male grudgingly steps back. Is made to step back. Because this is more than all of us. More than we humans and these Fey. Ignoring the near interruption, I voice my offer clearly and deliberately, choosing my words with ruthless attention to detail. I will go into Fairy with you of my own will, freely. A bride in name. A friend in truth. A credit to your bloodline. Again, the soldier moves to circumvent this, but the prince gestures him back a second more stringent time. Power, awful power, emanates from the very center of him, from every lovely, awful inch. Power called forth by the striking of this deal. And, he continues to me, the power still roiling off him. So much unbending, awful power. It's just him and me and that one other soldier at the perimeter. The priest, the prince's other soldiers, the townspeople. All have cowered back from us. Still watching, as if unable to look away, both mesmerized and horrified, caught in the enormity of this moment. A dam inside me bursts. I was so careful with my word choice before, but now they no longer seem to matter. I need to get them out, to share what's inside me, to give voice to what I feel and what I know, and why I've come here to strike this bargain. I will stand beside you, I promise hoarsely. Battle to the very end with you. Give up my life if I have to. Freely. All of this to stop the yearly visits. To stop the taking of these others. It ends with me. I am the last of these brides. The prince's eyes are large and sad and almost feral. His mouth opens to speak, as if he would order me to take back those words, to undo what I know I've already done. I won't allow it. I can't. Swiftly, I go on, needing to finish. There is ancient magic here, I whisper. In you and in me. It tells me who I am. The end and a new beginning. Even my name implies it. I was born for this. I am Aurora, Dawnbringer, the breaking of the dark with the dawn of a new day. Silence. There is only silence. Silence, until the prince finally speaks. Quietly. A little sadly. It isn't up to me to decide when it ends, he cautions, his voice heavy with the weight of centuries. If it were, I wouldn't be here, he continues. I would never have come in the first place. He glances to the soldier who tried to interrupt him. But we aren't made to have what we want. We're made to suffer. Sometimes, we find a precious moment, but even for we Fae, those are swift and fleeting. His pure, utter desolation is palpable, turning the air inside the church to a suddenly brisk temperature. The chill bite of winter lies in it. Certainly, this prince is bounty and richness and warmth, full-laden tables under the round harvest moon. But he is also the coming of ice and of snow. I know that, too, I tell him. He looks at me for a long moment. So long, I wonder if I've made a miscalculation, if he's scented a mistake or an unraveling of the deal. It's possible. The things I've said. I don't know that all of them are true. I feel they are. They're there, sure and bright inside me. Unknown before this. Hidden before this. Waiting for this. And yet, you will take the chance, the prince continues. You are light, lovely light, dawn, and you will come with me to face potential ruin, a snuffing out of that light. Worse than that, perhaps. Loss unlike any you have ever experienced. He extends his index finger, pointing at me with a spectral hand, like the long, thin bones of a skeleton. Like death. The words send a shiver down my spine. I stop to think for a moment, weighing the risks against my desire for change. But then, I remember all the losses I've already endured, and how each one had made me stronger. I am no stranger to loss, I say slowly. And there are some things I will never surrender. But I promise you this, I will come with you. And I will fight. In whichever way I'm able. With every skill and every capability and every beat of my heart until my heart stops altogether. If that is what it must do. But if I free you and survive it, I will be free to do as I choose in Fairy. Biting his lip, he considers. Then, finally, slowly, he nods. As he does, a small band of twining yellow and white gold appears on my right index finger. It's a lovely, delicate object crafted to mimic two twisting, interlocking vines. Tiny sparkling gems of orange, yellow, and brown crust the delicate leaves, sitting like dewdrops against autumnal foliage on a crisp fall morning. "It is done," says the prince, and he sighs, deflating. Whatever power forged this, whether his or something else's, it swiftly retreats, flowing away like the tide going out. Belatedly, he lifts his right hand, surveying the matching ring on his own index finger. "For better or worse, we're well and truly bound now. The bargain is struck, Aurora."